Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products. Recorded March 31st, 2021, end of the first quarter. Good afternoon, Franklin. Good afternoon, Mr. Rod Trent. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm letting in another person here, by the way.
Doing good. You mean well. Grammar police, right?
Hey!
Oh, we just had somebody come in.
It's Gene.
Uh-oh, it's Gene. What's up, pimping?
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
I heard you. I watched a preview video the other day. We didn't have a chance to meet. I was out of town, so yeah, I enjoyed the preview video that you have out there. When's the real video coming out?
Yeah, Rod pings me about that.
I gotta keep you on track. I want to be your agent, by the way.
I've been so busy, to be honest, but it will be coming very soon. I'm gonna get another Sentinel lab video out, and then I'll finish that up. I just want it to be good. So
This is the last week of the quarter. Aren't all you Microsoft people like on vacation because you had to have your numbers in a week ago or something? What's the deal?
well, yeah, I was sipping Mai Tais and things like that. And it was and I had too much, and then didn't work out very well.
Was that a glass of vodka?
Oh.
No, Volca. It's pronounced Volca.
Volca. Volca. Is it really a green screen when I can tell it's green? You got lines in it. It's like unpressed.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty bad green screen. You gotta do good editing to get rid of these dark spots. It's a really bad green screen.
And Frank, you changed yours. Why is yours like crimson?
No, it's the same. Here, I have to update the Discord link. They said it expired, so I'm going to do that while you guys talk.
Well, okay. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining. This is something that I guess was a brainchild of Franklin, that we bring guests on and what we consider friends of the show. You guys are always welcome to come back. And at the end of every quarter, if you have something, great. You know, a little tidbit, a tip, or something you thought cool, or you just want to bring in a bunch of highly opinionated facts, that's cool too. And then just have a round table talk about, hey, what I've seen in the field, if it's product specific or it's something that you saw, it's open, it's wide open. Bring a beer, bring a joke, sit here and do something funny. Hopefully we learn something and hopefully we teach something, right? To our listeners and supporters. Having a good time. The podcast is a year and a month old now, a little bit more from actively not missing a week. So that's pretty good. Franklin, did we take a hiatus during the holidays?
Oh, yeah. No, we had a few weeks off when, dealing with some of the COVID stuff and all that.
Yeah,
so.
I remember that. Yeah. So,
But one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we're here every week, or at least every 3 out of 4 weeks, to make sure that we're still getting the content out. So,
yeah.
I think we did a good job.
This was a round table of the mind share. We call ourselves the Legion of because sometimes you guys rather say something like, what? I don't understand, right? So the Legion of and we're having fun. I think there's some of our other previous guests and as well as celebrity and guest host. And thank you once again to Rod Trent and Nathan Swift for hosting one of the podcasts when myself and Franklin could not be here to excruciating circumstances. We won't go into details, but man, we really, really, really appreciate that, right?
Did you guys have fun doing it, Rod?
Oh man, it was awesome. I thought. Well, Gene stole the show, so we didn't have to really do anything.
All right. Hey, and Gene, we're gonna have you on solo, so you don't have to, come in and be a special guest. We'd like for you to come on and bring something, right? So, we're gonna have fun here pretty soon. So let's do this. Frank, what'd you do this week, man? It's Wednesday. What happened?
The course that I was working on is basically being published now. It'll be available April 2nd. So all the people that are taking the SC200 course, that they'll be able to start taking instructor-led courses. So I'm excited about that. Now, since all that is done, I get to go and I signed up for a course myself, which I'm very excited about. I'm going to do the Pen 300 from Offensive Security, the evasion techniques and breaching defenses, basically endpoint related stuff. So I'm ready to get started on that around April 11th, and basically taking it easy other than that.
Yeah. I took the SC200. It's beta, so you don't know, but I got some strange emails. I got an email say, "Congratulations on passing your Microsoft certification." I was like, "Oh, I passed." But when you go and look at the email, there's nothing in it.
Oh, really? I took it yesterday. It was still in beta, so
It was still in beta when I took it.
yeah.
So I was like, "Oh man, I passed." And I went in to go look at the email. It didn't list the certification. It didn't list the exam that I took. So the first thing I did was jump on the MCP site.
I have to say that it's not a valid exam if you pass it on the first attempt.
Whatever, man. Whatever.
So that exam was, so there were questions, and the answers that were in some of the questions were not correct. They were, and there's a difference between being right and being correct, right? Because they provided some answers that, yeah, okay, I get it, but they weren't absolutely the best answer in the world. So I was a little disappointed.
So here's the thing: is I was involved with the skills measured, and since I was the author for the courseware, I'm actually not allowed to be involved with the exam questions.
Oh wow!
So I was heavily involved with the questions for SC 400. If anybody's taken that exam, so it's kind of, I know it sounds kind of strange that I would not be involved with the exam questions. But also I got a question on, or I saw somebody out there say, I wonder how much the course relates to the actual exam questions. And what's interesting about that is that my job in writing the courseware was to prepare somebody for their job and go make sure that I covered what's in the skills measured, not prepare them for the exam. Those are two different things out there. So, yeah.
I thought the exam was fair, and I have to agree with Rod. The answers were right when they weren't correct, and I think the differentiator is that it can be right, but that's not the answer. That answer implies that, or you should know that there was a step before that you had to do to get it. Like, like if someone said, "Give me the 2 steps that you need to do to be able to get to this pane, to be able to do this in Azure Security Center," right? Or what do we call it now, Defender? And so I saw the step back to give it more enough time. I can't go and divulge anything on the podcast about the exam, but I thought the exam was fair, especially if I passed. It was very fair.
Well, yeah.
It was a really well written exam.
So the question is, do you think that the questions match the skills measured?
No.
No, you have to actually use the product to get the answers for the questions in the exam, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's different. I mean, where the questions related to the skills measured. So if somebody goes out to the skills measured on a site and looks at that and studies based upon those skills measured.
Oh yeah. If they take it the next step, they can't take this exam expecting to pass if all they did was take the measure.
Well, let me tell you something, and I know, frankly, you and I talked about this, that the percentages don't necessarily line up to exactly what you may see on the exam, but when you say skills measured, the flaw in that is assuming that 25% is Defender for Endpoint, 17% is Sentinel, 22% is that. That doesn't line up to, how can I do this? My exam was heavily weighted to a skills measure or the learning that was disproportionate. I'll give you an example. Suppose that, and I think suppose that the learn says that 25% of the exam is going to be around MDE. And for our listeners, I'll go back a little bit. That's Microsoft Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, and then Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection. Now Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, right? So we got them all there. They said that's 25% of the exam. What if I told you that 70% of the exam was that? Now, how's that 25% of the exam?
No, right? that's not what the exam is. That's how they score you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
So, yeah, no, I'm telling you, the funny thing is, Roz, like, I didn't get enough Sentinel questions. I shot back at him. I said, if I was actually running the exam, I wouldn't give them any Sentinel questions.
You didn't send the questions, right? That's like me saying, you know what? I got,
But
I don't know how many questions were, but I got 90% of my questions on MCAS.
yeah, they set you up for that. So,
Or Defender for headphones.
Right. Knocked it out.
yeah,
Hey,
so
but
I mean,
that,
the thing is, Rod, is that you aren't able to put in the feedback, which was upsetting because I guess the
that
system
was
crashed on you.
because the software bombed. I had actually wanted to provide feedback. There was like 7 or 8, and then when I got to the end of the exam, it just bombed. I couldn't get back into it.
that is so crazy. Mine bombed.
Huh.
But these exams are not supposed to allow you to go back. Once you click, you're done, right? You can't go back and review. It did.
Huh.
So no, when you can't, because sometimes you'll see a question further down the line, you'll go, that reminded me. This is the answer to that. And I said, oh,
Well,
can't
you
go back.
can go back. You just can't go back, I think, in the case studies or the DOMCs. So here's the important thing is that you should always fill in the feedback because that's taken very serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is in the beginning, they ask you the questions, are you an expert or not, at these things on what level? Definitely put what that is. If you put like, hey, I'm a beginner, they're not going to give you easier questions. Okay, I've heard that before. That's not the case. But what they do is they run statistics. Okay, if all the people say that they're an expert and they got this question wrong, then they're going to say, what's wrong with this question? And even if there's no feedback, they're going to go and review that question. So they take the whole question review process very serious, and that's why people should definitely leave feedback in there. It's funny, I've actually gotten to see some of my own feedback and make comments on it when I'm doing question reviews. So, so when you weren't able to put in the feedback route, I was upset about that because that would have been really good feedback for the question reviewers to go over.
Yeah, I was just trying to help.
Yeah. So the only other thing I got, and then I'd like to hear Jane tell me if he got any upcoming, learning external. I'm getting ready to take the SANS 508 exam, 508 course, which is the 508, right? 508, right, Frank? 508.
Yeah.
And so advanced hunting and endpoint forensics. So I'm going to do that here coming up. I'm not brave enough to take the one that Franklin's getting ready to do with offensive security. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
So here's the deal about the 508. I believe that everybody from Microsoft that's dealing with Sentinel or Defender for Endpoint should take that class. Okay. It's very technical, right? So probably at a level that a lot of people are not used to dealing with. You're going to say, why am I at this technical level of dealing with the endpoint, dealing with what's on each side of the lateral movement from the forensics artifacts that are there. But once you do that and then you start working with Defender for Endpoint or Sentinel, all of that stuff is going to make sense to you. So even though if you're going in there saying, hey, this isn't my job or whatever, it's something that because you basically are looking at the raw data of what's going on, and you're going to learn so much from that.
And that, I took it from the SANS GIAC course, great stuff. Some of the smartest people you'll see, but that course is built around, did I give it to you, Frank? There's a Hunt Evil thing.
There's a Hunt Evil poster, right? No, that's different. And what's interesting about that Hunt Evil poster is that they actually show you, like, if there's a lateral movement from one machine to another, you're going to see this process start on this one machine, and then this process, then another process start on another machine. So when you're seeing that sort of information, you understand how Defender for Endpoint can actually say, hey, here's this lateral movement, because they were able to connect those two processes together to make that connection. So yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing that I think everybody should take that course. And my thing is that out of all the certifications I've taken, by far the most important one to me is GCFA, which is the 508 course.
I'm gonna give it, the old college try and make.
And the other thing is this.
Hard.
That's right. The other thing is this: is when I went and took it, I went to the hotel. I actually stayed at the hotel, even though it was in the DC area. Did all the evening events and said, okay, I'm just going to focus on this for a week. Okay. And I did the Saturday event, where basically the Saturday event is where you go in, here's here's the breach data, right? The images, disk images, memory images. Now, by the end of the day, you have to write a report about what happened and submit it, okay, using all the forensics tools from there. But I would highly recommend now, since things are opening up, that when you go and you take this, you go out, even if it's in your local town, go stay at a hotel, turn off the phones from work, and just focus on this, enjoy the events that are taking place, do the Saturday thing to get the most out of it, and go from there. You'll learn a ton, even though you might be like, hey, how is this really helping my job? When you go back and work with your customers, you'll see.
Gene, what did you work on code this week? What you got on the plate? What are you studying?
Oh, I don't do anything. I don't do anything on the weekend.
I said this week, not this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on a few things. So after I just figured out how to turn logic apps to templates. So now that I know to do that, I have all these logic apps that I can export and put on the GitHub repo that I kind of use for my customer demos that just are pretty cool, I think. And so exporting that, and also I'm probably gonna. I also figured out how to contribute to the GitHub repo. So Sweetheart that works in the Sentinel team, he kind of showed me how to upload to fork from the GitHub repo and upload to that. So I'm probably gonna show people how to do that as well to kind of help them. If you never use GitHub, it's fine. Just follow the commands to just update it and then push up to the approval group for that Sentinel GitHub repo. So that's going to be pretty good as well.
So when you say that you learn how to export it, so Nathan Swift and I collaborated, and one of the things that we did was this. So when you're working across customers, you're writing custom queries, playbooks, logic apps, playbooks, workbooks. One of the things is that when I leave a customer, like, especially if I didn't work on it, because I've gone behind Rod. I think I've come behind you on a couple of customers, Matthew Lowe. I'm like, oh man, this is pretty cool. Who wrote this? And so rather than me have to copy and paste, I'm like, oh, this is painful. How can I get everything? So we wrote a KQL. We wrote a PowerShell script that we can download every query out of every tenant, that long as we have at least, I forgot the RBAC that we put in. I'll say at least contributor. So let me share something to you guys. Can you, Frank, can you make me presenter so I can share screen?
Sure
can. Or I can share screen now. Oh, host disabled. So I'm gonna show you guys something, and I'll share it with you guys because
just like being in control.
Yeah, I do. Right. Yeah, I do. So what happened is one of my peers. Did you guys remember Adrian Corona?
Yeah.
Man, cool dude. So I perfected the download. The upload was giving me issues, so we ended up writing something. So this is what we got. Did you do it for me, Frank?
Yep, we should be.
All right, so let me show something to you. Let me give you the right screen here. Get you all. Is that it? Share. When you guys can see my screen, let me know.
I can see it.
What are you seeing?
Ooh, a lot of text files.
Yeah. So what happens is these are queries that were saved across all of the stuff, all the tenants that work in, including customers. And so when I look at this, I want to be able to do this and be able to bring it down. And so I have some import scripts. So within this, if I want to export it out, can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm. Well, family pictures.
You double clicked, but I don't see the
file. It's because of the way Zoom and Team does. But I can share this with everyone. So what I did was the export script will scrub or scrape the tenant / LAW and resource group, because you got to have the resource group too. That was something we had to do. And we can then, once we get it down, I had to figure out a way that if I want to lighten the load, I can import this into a customer and have all these saved queries well, right now I just got to work on queries. But Gene, you made my Spider Sense team like, oh my God, you can download Logic app / playbooks in this. And so when you get this, now these are some of the things that we've written for customers. So you can see some of my coworkers, right? Like if you want to go in and say ADX login, text name, I can look at it. And that's a very simple query, right? But if I want to go in and say we did something that was pretty cool where a customer wanted us to do something around WAF and then the OWASP,
Uh-huh.
I can come down here and look at it and say, where is that WAF query that I wrote for a customer right there? Malform user agent text. So I think that the way Zoom works, if I double click on this, it's not going to pop the window up, even though I said share, not the screen, but the desktop. I can do this. So these are all the queries across all the customers that I have. Now I can take these things, and if I want to just upload them in bulk, I can. Now I didn't go in to be able to make it very name specific. It's going to be a bulk upload. So when you do this, it would dump it into your saved queries of any customer, like high priority, SQL assessment. I wrote something with a path, malicious network map. So I'd like to maybe,
So
go ahead, Rob.
yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
you have to be careful with logic apps because they contain, when you create a logic app and you just export the template, it contains the personality of that subscription. That's why you have to templatize these before you send them to the GitHub repo. So if you can develop a PowerShell script that automatically templatizes these things, I would kiss you in a minute.
I can. I'm close to it. That it can templatize it. So I've taken out the things that make this thing fail, like invalid resource group, invalid LAW, invalid this. It'll just leave it as a variable. And so when you get it, it'll and I sort of commented inside the PowerShell script that, hey, you put your resource group, you put your LAW in. I almost got it to work. And once I get that, I'll share it up. I really don't have a robust Git. So if I do get it, I'll give it to one of you guys. You can put it up there first, right? So I can get my Git skills up because I've been using Azure DevOps. So I rarely go into Git. I've been using Azure DevOps for the work I've been doing with some developers. But that's all that I had. I just want to show that this is. I've already had a couple of people reach out to me and say, "Hey man, I'm getting ready to leave this customer. I'm done with the engagement. I wrote all this stuff. I don't want to do this line by line." And I shared it to them, so they pulled everything down, and then they'll go back. But I'll figure out how to get that templatize it or whatever it is, so that login attempts by a block MFA user or a Linux schedule task aggregation. These things you can just upload. And if you guys like want to refine it a little bit, whereas you can actually get it down to it, but this is sort of hard because all of these are the hunting queries that are sort of default inside of it, and then plus the ones that we wrote. But good stuff.
All right,
That's awesome.
Before you leave this, I want to ask you about your network there.
What's up?
What are the names of the boxes there?
Oh, Transformers, Abominus, Devastator, Predaking. Oh, Time Bandit is one of my machines from another one. Eddie Monsters, a machine. So all my stuff is either named after, pulp movies or Transformers. Most of all the machines in my lab are named Transformers. So you haven't seen Megatron, Optimus Prime, all these guys. I got those sort of hidden, right? You can see all my junk here, right?
All right, so bring up your browser because I want to. I've got a question for Rob.
Uh-oh.
And
can you see it?
I can't see the browser.
Oh, hold on for a second.
So I want you to search for Rod Trent blog.
Oh no!
Hold on for a second. How do I? The screen would minimize. Oh, stop share. Okay.
Well, yeah.
So what do you want me to do?
You have to learn to pronounce the word templatize before you can do that.
Templatize.
There you go.
Templatize.
So
I wanted you to keep sharing and bring up your browser so
I'm about to share my browser now. Hold on for a second.
Just go to aka.ms rod blog.
Is that what you want?
Sure.
All right. So I have to say that this is the Meeting Solutions Magic Quadrant.
What do you want to see?
Rod's blog.
Yeah, let me see here.
It's probably one of your tabs.
It's one of the gazillion that I have. Let me see, Microsoft implementation. I've been messing with that. CMMC stuff. Yeah, that's a good one. You guys got to get this.
I like go back one tab. That's my favorite one right there. What's the difference between Azure Security Center, Azure Defender, and Azure Sentinel?
The pricing.
I don't know if you have it. I don't know if you have it open or not. So why don't you just open a new tab? You stay on.
What do you want me to do? What is it?
AKA aka.ms/rodblog. There you go.
All right. So I have to say that, Rod, do you have an RSS feed here, a link for that?
Yeah, if you just put feed on the end of that URL up
Okay.
top. Yeah.
I have to say that I can't keep up with how much content you're putting out here on this blog. So if people are not, are not out here looking at this blog, I mean, they have to be. So I haven't heard you talk about it on the show before.
It's just one of those things. These are things I talk about with customers. They ask questions. We don't have it in our documentation. I cover the other stuff, right? So actual day in, day out work with somebody asked today, say, hey, could you talk to my customer about how to get always on VPN in Azure Sentinel? I said, well, it's already there. You just need to enable, pull it in, ingesting the application log and look for, RAS client. And he's like, well, we don't know about that because it doesn't exist anywhere. So just little tidbits of stuff.
It's really good. I do have you as a save. Let me see. This is my save thing, right? So I got all this stuff. I have you saved in here, right?
I hope you visit each one of those every day because
I do.
otherwise.
Actually, when I hit open home, it opens all of these.
Seriously.
And then I do the process of elimination.
That's
right?
why you have so many tabs.
That's why I have so many tabs, right? Like
Yeah.
podcasts, GitHub, blah 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 blah. It's just MSDN that I never use. Product.
I started once they released the tabs on the left hand side. I started using that.
I'm about to do that now. So I run like 6 browsers because I like to do certain things in Chrome, certain things in Brave, and certain things in Firefox. But I'm running both the Edge production or public, and I'm running dev. But I'm going to bring all this stuff into it because I'm going to start using personalities, and I'm going to start using the vertical tabs. So I'm just going to get rid of all these browsers now.
What's amazing is he's got 6 browsers running on all 6 of those monitors over there.
Oh yeah, always. I stay connected. What I got right here, security. This is a good one here. This Azure Security Map by Steph Henley. It talks about and I don't want to divert. We'll get the floor to Rod. He hasn't talked about anything, but if you go here, what this thing does is allows you to come down and give a visual representation of how the technologies interact.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's actually pretty good. I'll put it in the show notes. It's sort of like an encroacher because he keeps it updated.
Huh.
That's pretty good. Azure infrastructure map, you can come here. It talks about all the interaction between the Azure security products and how they connect and everything. So it's sort of like a family tree or genetic tree or 24andMe. And it also gives you the code names before they actually go public.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so it's not the same guy that does Azure charts, but he's actually pretty good. So I'm always up here and doing something, man. What was I doing today? Someone wanted some information about how Sentinel can handle information from Azure Information Protection because someone told them that the AIP logs were free. They're not free at all, right? And so I was going into this today, trying to learn a few things. So
yeah,
that's all that I had. So
cost is always.
So I got a question for everyone. What is the one technology that you want to learn about over the next quarter? So when we check back in a quarter from now, you can say, okay, I'm an expert at X, Y, and Z. If you're already an expert at it, you can't actually choose that one. So we'll start with you, Rod.
It's front door, I think.
Okay, what is front door for everyone?
It's kind of a commercial solution to creating kind of a secure entryway into your cloud tenant. Just another piece of identity. And again, I need to learn more about it, but there's a lot of customer interest in it, by the way. As of late, I keep getting asked about it constantly. I'm like, I can talk about it, but I can't, so.
I know 2 great resources at Microsoft that can get you going, Rob.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to sort of dabble at it when I was a CSA before I came over here. Hey, how do I get out of this sharing thing? Evidently, I'm not a Zoom architect.
Yeah, you may pull up the wrong tab here in a minute, and we'll make the show.
I think at the top. The top, middle, bottom. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah, mine's down at the bottom, but yeah, I don't know.
It was at the bottom. Let me see. I can't. Oh, there it is. It's hiding it. I got it.
All right.
Hmm. Hmm. Give me 1 second, gentlemen. Zoom challenge. I tell you what. When all this fails, do this.
He exited out. All right. So in the chat we have Defender for IoT, which I have a bad story about that. So
Yeah.
not a bad product, just a bad licensing situation where I activated the trial, and then when I
Stupid
stopped
Flanders.
it, oh, actually the trial actually finished, and then it started charging me, and then so when I found it, I'm like, okay, my fault. This is like 40 or 50 bucks a day, right? So it's not cheap. And it's like, I'm like, I stopped it, whatever, and it was still charging me. As a matter of fact, even when I actually had to call in and get them to, they actually gave me back the money, which is good, but now it's still charging me, so I'm gonna have to do it again. So I have to get them to stop charging me somehow.
Wow.
So
Without me knowing, you must be talking about Defender for IT.
yeah. So be careful when you're dealing with that, because they don't know. Defender for IoT, they're talking about what you're doing with the on-prem, disconnected licensing requirements. So they have no way it's not like you can just go out and delete a resource group and you're done with it. So just be careful about, if you do start up the trial, make sure you stop the trial or whatever and just watch it from there, because when you're getting dinged,
or use your friend's credit card.
That's exactly right. So if I'm going to be doing any work on it, I'm going to be using Edward's credit card. So
I know a place where you could buy credit cards for $5.
all right. So what about you? What are you going to learn this quarter?
Oh, I've never gotten into ML, but I think ML is going to be pretty good to get into with Sentinel, and learning about entities and trying to understand that and how it kind of connects all together. Because entities are just it's an awesome story, because you're not investigating logs anymore. You just entities. The metaphor I kind of related to is, like a forensic scene where there are blood, an address, all these pieces. They all kind of connect to each other. And when you're investigating, you're looking for every single piece. So that is going to be interesting to just like see if the ML can go connect all the dots and just bring it all together. I don't know if that's possible, but I mean,
First of all, I've never been on a crime scene that I'm investigating blood and brain shards.
well, yeah.
So,
Well, I watched Dexter. I learned a lot of Dexter.
I'm not. So when you when you're on a crime scene and the blood and the guts and you see a chopped up body, no, I don't.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Sentinel can find that stuff for you, by the way.
So how are you going to go about learning that? I'm interested. Do you have a plan for doing that? Or is it just
read my blog?
Yeah, Rod's blog.
So what Azure technology are you going to use for that?
So I believe it's there was, I think it was Fusion Table, but then I think there's a new one now. So I don't really know, but in Sentinel, there's like, you can actually spin up a machine learning environment and then connect it to a Python workbook.
Okay.
Or notebooks.
So notebooks.
Yeah, so you can spin up an instance and actually just code some Python and actually just dig into the data. The first use case is going to be related around the SolarWinds breach, where the particular malware used DGA, called domain generation algorithm, and generating those domains. I think I talked about the last podcast, but that is going to be something interesting, that may be understanding a process and what IPs is talked to or something like that, or domain. So I don't know.
I'm looking forward to seeing the work. So when you start looking at the notebooks, look at more current information, not old information, because they changed the engine for that. So just don't go too far back on that. But no, that sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to the end of the quarter report on this.
That
Raise
came
your
up in that came up in the webinar today, right? Don't use the old because they
Yeah.
sort of changed it. Yeah. Yeah. So
raise your hand if you went down like some docks that was really old and some dock, and then it just like, oh, you just spent hours. Oh,
my
it's really
first
frustrating sometimes.
my first exposure to Juniper notebooks were I was doing some work with McAfee and actually Intel, and they were really pushing that at the time. This is years ago, and so I sort of missed that bus. But I was listening to Matt Egan today do a presentation for a customer. Him and another guy, Ian, Helen, and maybe Steve Howell. They were talking about notebooks, and I'm like, yeah, I got to double down on that. I'm weaker than a pack of Kool-Aid in a swimming pool, right, on that stuff. So, one other question I have for Rod is, why does your Sentinel robot have a six pack? Do robots do crunches? Do they do P90X?
Well, it's anatomically correct. That's why.
Okay.
It's an Android.
All right, Edward,
So,
what are you gonna be learning, Edward? What
oh,
technology?
me? I'm gonna double down on the 508, right? Do that. You know, I'm not an expert in anything, I don't believe. So I really got to get deeper into KQL like you guys are doing, especially around investigation. And I think if I do anything, uh, I I think Azure notebooks for what they're being able to do for guided investigation and being able to walk people through scenarios and be able to help them through it. I need to throw some time behind that. I thought about spending the rest of the year learning watch lists, but I learned it in 2 hours.
Learned all the limitations in 2 hours, right? So.
You know what? I'm doing that, but on a
Yeah.
serious note, 508, Azure Notebooks, and I did a huge project with Microsoft Defender for Identity. And so after watching that video you told me to watch about Kerberos roasting and everything, everybody thinks they know the authentication back and forth within Kerberos. You really don't. You think you do, but you don't. And Franklin put me onto a guy, and I watched this video 3 times on YouTube. So when you start understanding ticket, generation and change, and you start understanding packs, and then you start to understand how these pass the hash, overpass the hash, these Kerberos attacks really work. So I really want to try to get a deeper understanding to that, and that's only because I'm doing a lot of work in MDI. Like that has been 2 of my bigger projects now. I did a project, small one that had 200 domain controllers, and I'm doing one that I've never seen someone who needs 500 domain controllers. I said it right. 5, and this is a big company, so they're trying to boil it down as they do it. But the company sort of adopted theyese things because they're a company that does a lot of M&As. So it's not necessarily their forest and their environment. They're absorbing other companies. So I had an interesting scenario where they wanted to try to put MDI up top and be able to see all these different forests of all the companies that they bring on as part of their mergers and acquisition and due diligence. Like if I stick this in your environment and I start seeing all this type of lateral movement, we're not moving forward with acquisition. Something's going on, Marriott. So, so that's not the customer though. I'm just saying when the SPG and Marriott merged, had they had this, they would have probably saw this, right? So I'm really getting into that. And then I saw the roadmap for that particular product from a Microsoft PG. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is going to be some really good stuff. So I think I'm going to dive into the authentication identity stuff a little bit better to see that stuff.
Cool.
Really good stuff too. And then MCAS can see it too, but MCAS is a little late when they see it, right? So
MCAS is where you do all your investigation.
Well, if I needed to pivot to another tech, but I'm still going to pivot to Sentinel because Sentinel's stitching together all the correlation and cohesion, right? So I'd rather go there and then let it tell me. I got enough evidence to say if I need to pivot out to a portal, let me pivot over to Defender for Endpoint or pivot over to MCAS or pivot over to this. But that's sort of got my attention right now. That and trying to pass this damn 508 exam. I mean,
All right. So one of the things that I'm going to do is we are going to open up our Discord. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for everyone and send it out to you guys to join in, because I don't know about you, but I'm just getting overloaded. I mean, I can't watch everything on LinkedIn. I mean, I just don't have one central part where it's filtered information specific for what we're dealing with. Is that something that you guys would participate in and
Absolutely.
help build a community there?
Yep. I need one more place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
I need another streaming service.
I like Discord. I really do. I've always kind of admired it. And those websites and communities that integrate it, I think that works out just the best.
Yeah.
But I treat every social media network differently, right? So Facebook is family and friends. LinkedIn is professional or whatever. Twitter is just, I don't know, garbage.
Toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic is the word.
But you approach each one based on what you believe it is anyway. Discord, I think, is more conversational to me.
Good. Yeah, we'll start setting up forums out there and focusing in on the technologies and have a more filtered area, because I can't keep up with all the stuff that you post on LinkedIn. It goes by too fast with all the feeds that I have out there. Unfortunately,
is there a product out there that you can post content across multiple platforms?
Yes.
I know in Twitter they had Tweetcast or something like that. Is there something that says if I do this, do it across all of these?
Yep.
I need to figure that out.
Yeah, what is it?
Because I'm pretty bad, man, about being an evangelist and impactor and writing stuff, right? I'm like, oh my God, I did so much that when I ran the partner community, because I was in charge of all the tech community and writing every week. I'm like, oh man, I'm burned out. But Rod was built for this. I don't know if a lot of our listeners knew where he came from. I won't disclose unless he chooses to. You can tell everyone why he's such a prolific writer. Hot seat.
Am I supposed to answer?
You don't have to.
Okay. No, I've done many things over my career. Some of those happen to be running editorial teams for magazines like Windows IT Pro and Windows Magazine and things like that. So a piece of it.
So I have a little bit of trivia that almost happened. I have a picture with Mark Ravanovich, and you walked away. You would have been in the picture from an old seminar we have. I'll send it to Frank. And then I was like, I think Rod was a guy wherever we were, because I didn't realize how tall he is. Well, I'm short, but
I used to have him come to my conferences and speak and stuff. And yeah.
And you were there and you walked away, but I took a picture with him and I still have it. I pull it out of an old phone and I got it. I got one of those old flip phones. It was still there. And I figured out how to turn that phone on to get it over. I'll send it to Frank and we'll make it a show note. But
that was the old Sis Internals days.
But you had hair.
Oh, I could have hair if I wanted it. I just choose not to. I've gone beyond hair at this point. The wife hates it, but I'm just like, it's just so much easier to deal with.
I want to see the matching outfit with your $6 million man doll.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, when you have flowing locks like mine, I tell you.
Yeah. All right, so we're coming up on the hour. Let's go around the table on it for any final comments.
One for me. How do you guys stay not overwhelmed, right? Because I'm trying to produce, I'm trying to learn at the same time, I'm trying to follow you guys. I think what I've done, I've done with LinkedIn, I'm done with Twitter, I'm done with these things. I sort of, like I said, I follow people on Git, right? And so I go look at the Git and what they have. How do you guys stay current, man? It's just so much to consume. This is the question to Jen first. Go ahead, Jen.
I just look at Rod's weekly feeds, and then I just kind of look through the list to see if anything I'm weak in, and then I just kind of click on those links. To be honest, LinkedIn's pretty good, but you got to have a big network, and then you start getting a lot of feeds, and then it's a lot of noise sometimes, and sometimes there's but that's basically that's what I do. It's just Rod and LinkedIn for me.
I'm gonna take that on. I mean, you could have better fonts and everything, but I'll let that go. Right? Sorry. Rod, you?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible. And in fact, that should be a show all its own. Just how to kind of keep up to date, particularly for people that are in our roles within these different organizations, because Microsoft is a monster when it comes to releasing features and enhancements all day long. It's just like, yeah, Firehose. It's customers complain that it's almost, they complain all the time that, oh my goodness, it's just so hard to keep up. Well, we're the same way. Oh my goodness. That's why I decided to focus on a specific area and then just branch out from there, right? So you really have to focus where you're interested, and then, once you become comfortable with your own shoes, then you can start doing other things. But yeah,
I
Is it
got to
just
change
me?
my.
Is it just me, or if I focus so much on logic apps, I forget Sentinel. Like I'm just like, wow, where did
yeah.
I was really good, and then I have to kind of go back and refresh, get caught up. But if I focus on one thing, I forget everything else I learned 2 weeks ago.
Well, I
That's
was
what a lot of
talking to a customer
And-
today. Talking to a customer today, and they had. So we have internally, we have this Azure Sentinel Fundamentals workshop, which is like a 4-day course, which teaches them how to use Azure Sentinel and the different features. It's been a year since they've had that workshop, and we were talking on the phone today, and they're like, I said, well, they wanted to eliminate noise, wanted to kind of tune things. I said, well, have you worked with watch lists? Sorry, Frank. Have you worked with watch lists? Have you, delved into the threat intelligence stuff? Have you worked with our new automation rules? Well, automation rules? Yeah, click on that automation down there. Oh my goodness, it's not playbooks anymore. So I told him, I said, well, you know what? I'll develop a kind of a mini workshop. It's like a refresher to, because our customers are like, they're like, holy crap.
Hey man, bad news. We had guys waiting in the lobby. They said they couldn't get in.
Really?
I kept hearing a noise, and then I'm like, I saw one. Who was it?
It was Nanad, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm in the lobby. I've been trying to get in."
I know. I admitted him, and then he bailed out right at that same time.
Okay.
So
Yeah, my bad.
I'm not a Zoom expert either. So I'm like, hey, what was that noise? And then I was thinking about it for a while. Then I see
that
somebody out there. So
stinks.
we'll have to have him back on soon.
All right. Okay. So Frank, what about you? How do you keep up, man?
I realize that I've given up on trying to keep up.
Yeah.
So when I have to go back and deal with something, I have all my reference material and know how to do it. There's so many things I want to learn. I went back and started doing some ranges today for pen testing and so on. Realized, okay, I'm back to learning Nmap, because I've been away from it for 6 months. That's pretty sad. Of course, I can get back up to speed pretty fast. So, I've just decided that even from certification standpoint, it doesn't have security in it. I'm not going to take that certification. I might learn it. I might not take it if there's a continuing education BS that you have to go through. But yeah, I mean, it's just a thing of realizing I'm not going to remember it. I'm going to have to get back up to speed fast when it's time, and then focus in on the area that I am at the time. So over the next 3 months, it'll be straight endpoint evasion, and I'm not going to worry about the fact that I've forgotten all these other things. So
Yeah, and I agree with you because the customer had a tenable Nexus environment where they were doing continual scans, and I hadn't touched it in a while, but they were just making MDI just go off. They were trying to do stuff right, so they had continual scans, and I realized, oh my God, I haven't jumped into my Kali box in so long, right? So I ran an update on Kali, got that squared away, updated my Mint distro for network that, and so it's sort of.
the good news is if you haven't worked with it in 2 months, it's probably changed anyways. So,
Yeah.
when I deal with people, I'm just like, hey, listen, I haven't worked with this in 2 months. I have to go back and take a look at it to see what's changed, which is really the truth.
A customer asked me a question on MDO, Defender for 365 around the malware policy. I tell you, I just swung and miss right off the plate, right? Like, I haven't been in this in a while. And when I got in there, it's just changed. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing? So they were sending alerts to SecureWorks, but they couldn't figure out how to stitch the way SecureWorks as an MSP talk back because it's not real time. The event IDs aren't the same. The way they formatted it is not the actual alert. I'm like, dude, I have no idea. So give me one. Let me investigate it backwards to be able to go see these things. They're getting flooded with, you guys have seen these alerts, TI URL click through. And they had no idea what that is, right? Because they're like, we're doing the M365 stuff. Like, sure, send me these alerts. Let me take a look and see if I can come up with something that can stitch this alert. But come to find out, if you guys ever see this with a customer with MSSP, make sure they're both on the same time unification and platform. You can't have one in local time and one UTC. It's not going to line up. And I'm like, this thing said it occurred in the future. Yeah, we saw time.
The bottom line is that you should be thinking UTC no matter what. So
yeah.
the people that are doing local time are not looking at it right. You always do UTC.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. I think I'm just gonna be used to being behind and being one blog post, Rod, in front of the customer, right, and being able to get stuff up and running. But the cool part about it is so much to learn.
I got to tell you, I just, to be honest, when I know a customer call is going to come up or something, I'll look at the outline. I'll spend 2 or 3 hours prepping for it, just to, there's a lot of effort that goes into prepping for working with customers these days, just to make sure that as current as possible on whatever that happens to be.
Who on this call is a threat intel or taxi expert? Because I got to be it tomorrow. Right,
we'll talk offline.
Okay.
So
They got a miss server. They ain't doing what it's supposed to do. I don't know. Sure. I don't know. Right. I think I got Alien Vault set up as one of my TI feeds. So we'll see what's going on.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline. So you just talked about you just basically talked about 3 different integrations.
I know, right? And that's how I got the email from the salesperson. That's exactly how I got it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Right. So we'll see what's going on. Hey, I know we want to make sure everybody for time. We always have fun with these. I share information, but one thing I want to emphasize or make sure you guys are always welcome. If anytime you guys are, hey, I want to come on the show and talk about anything, this is a podcast of the people, right? Invite your users, invite your listeners, invite your followers from your own social media outlets and everything else. If anything you want to share, you can always advertise it here. You can come here and share it.
And on our Discord, let's build that
Discord.
up. So people don't have to wait the whole week.
Frankly, you got a haircut.
No, I just took a shower. That's all.
Yeah. Don't do that. That'll start a bad habit. I start no bad habits about showering.
I just got up at 3 o'clock. What are you talking about? So
really? I've been up since 3 this morning. But then again, I go to bed at 7. So that's a right. Yeah, I don't.
And for April, we have some guests lined up.
Oh yeah. So April's going to be. Let's see what the bad cybersecurity women in the industry are doing. So we're going to have all female guests. They're going to come on. So some of them you may know, Azure Sentinel heavies, security heavies. We get them lined up. I got someone from Microsoft, Bess Biscoff. She's going to come talk about threat intel. So she's going to do that. She said she had to do it at the very end of the month because she's super busy. Shannon Cole out of Singapore. So going to work with her. She's going to come on. And I think the super security heavy young woman in Australia, I got to reach back out to her. But basically, she didn't know who I was. She's like, who are you? Right?
So is it Sarah or is it somebody else?
It's not Sarah, because I know Sarah. But Sarah and I were together in Australia. It's Frank sent me
And until she's confirmed, don't say her name. I mean,
I won't say her name. Okay, so she confirmed. Right?
It's somebody that I've been in meetings with that's super smart. So I'm looking forward to having her on.
And just perspective, right? How other people in the industry, it's just not an old white man industry, right? Everybody brings their expertise and everything, and then race, color, sex, religion, national origin, and choice of beer should not be a determining factor on what you do in this industry, right? So that, and then we're going to come up in what month is this? April, May. We're going to make it all about partners. So we're going to try to get all the partners in there. And I want all you got a Sentinel practice, you got this and that, because I came from that part of the world working with partners. So I want to give partners perspective. Is Sentinel a viable product that you can build an MSSP around, or you making one of your cornerstone products? What are your difficulties? And I also got a partner who tried to go down the security road that failed, and they bailed on it. They're like, this is too hard, right? And they just bailed on it. So I want to hear about how they did that. And then there's one part I'm trying to line up. I did not realize they were acquired. They were a bunch of guys that came from the NSA, CISA, and one other place, and they formed this company, and they got acquired already. So I'm friends with their VP. So I want to see if I can get them on. Ben has been a buddy of mine since I used to train their company, and he's going to bring a tremendous amount of perspective because they work with both civilian as well as agency. Because these guys still have all these security clearances. They get, if they can talk, they can tell some really good stories, right? And in their perspective on what happened with Halcyon and Solar Winds when I had an out of band talk is totally different from what you hear in the press. Totally different, right? So if they can be very candid on here, I would super appreciate it. How many guys watched HBO Max? I think it's HBO Max, and they had Bill Maher. So last week they had Krebs, the one that was fired from CISA.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Interesting to listen to. Very interesting. So he started his own company with another cybersecurity heavy. I knew the guy's name. And if you guys have HBO Max, go listen to him.
Yeah.
That 15 minutes that he talks to him about saying, we need to take this very seriously, extremely seriously.
I'm watching Godzilla and King Kong tonight, by the way. So
yeah,
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right,
Let's go
everyone.
watch it tonight. Hey
Until
man,
next
thank you guys
time.
so much. I'm surprised. I hated that we didn't get the theme. We'll get everybody back on. We're gonna do this roundtable once a quarter. But anytime you guys want to come onto the show, if you just don't want to listen, you want to chime in, come on and do it.
All right.
Win. You're a winner.
And we're going to see you guys on Discord too. So let's get that up and running. So
Sounds good.
I'll put that in
Have a good night.
show notes. Night,
Good one,
everyone.
guys.